now we're going to start creating this cover here from the original back. So to do that, first you need your film holder, your Polaroid back, and you need your spacer. And what you need to do is you want to put a film pack in, so then you can find out where the actual film area is. And once you've done that, you want to place your spacer on top and center it so that it's nice and centered, and you want to keep it, hold it there, and make some alignment marks somewhere along the body of the spacer and your holder. And this is so that you can align the spacer onto here and you put your holder on top, and make sure that the actual film area is centered. Another way you can do it is to actually remove the bellows and the lens and everything, and open it up and actually position it looking through the other side of the camera. But my bellows are actually stuck on there now with double-sided tape, and I don't want to remove it quite yet. So I've basically marked on my spacer where my holder will be to be centered. Once you've done that, you put your spacer on your camera and you secure it somehow with double-sided tape. In my case, it's actually quite sort of tight, so it doesn't really move on its own. And so you put it in so that the area is actually centered on the metal film gate in there. And then you put your Polaroid holder on top and line it up with your registration marks that you made. So get mine there, and that will be your final position of your Polaroid holder. And once you get that down, you take your back that you've hopefully removed everything out of, and you mark where to cut. And you want your cut to go straight across up here, and so that it kind of fills this hole nicely and make it nice and flush up against the holder and spacer. And to do that, all I've done was visually I held the back up against the bottom here like this, and made sure it was quite parallel. And basically I've just lined up these hinge points visually. It doesn't have to be like really perfect or anything. And then I just marked a mark where the film holder, or the furthest point out, is on here. And I've made just a little mark. I did the same for the top. So I ended up with two tick marks. Don't know if you can see. Mine are small red tick marks here. But once you've done that, you grab a little square, and basically you'll just mark across, and you'll want a straight line straight up across here. I've done two marks because just as like a check test, so that I actually make sure that both marks are reasonable. So mark those two. I've got a red mark here. It doesn't have to be red, obviously. How will this? So put up against this end, mark down, and you can see that my mark isn't actually perfect, but that doesn't matter. So there I've got a mark, and you want to mark down here too. So put the square up against the bottom and mark a vertical line. This is just the guiding you in your cuts. So mark there, and the other side obviously. And there. And then basically you just get a hacksaw or some sort of cutting tool. I'm going to use a Dremel, I think, and you'll cut that down. You notice I haven't actually cut this off yet. I'll do that while I'm cutting this. So I'll do it all while the I have the Dremel out. And I'll get back to you once I've done that. Now I've finished cutting out this door here. This is how it will look like in the end. My Polaroid here is kind of lined up with my spacer at the bottom. Spacer is centered, and you can see lined up the hinge here, and you can see there's the door snug up against the Polaroid back. You can see I've also cut out the kind of knob lump here. This was on here. Yeah, just a Dremel, ground it out. This actually took quite a bit of time because if you can see here, the kind of edges along the long end is here are quite thin, but these two chunks here were really thick, and that took ages to grind out. But it finally came off. Smoothed this over with just a file. Later I'll fill this up with epoxy and file it flush. Maybe embed a small metal plate into this square hole here and epoxy it in and secure it. And then over that will be the leather. Now, two things I did. Well, actually it was one thing, but two places. These two edges here, for the back and the bottom, the leather actually comes here, and in the end I'll fold it over for both these. But if you fold it over and this is all flush, then the leather, because of the thickness of the leather, it will kind of stick out above this edge and it will look kind of ugly. So what I've done was I've kind of cut or filed a sort of recess along this edge and this edge. And I'll give you a close-up. So you can see there, instead of having this edge flush, I've filed a little recess here for the thickness of the leather so it could wrap round and be flush with this door end. I've done it to this edge, and you can see here as well I've filed a little notch here. It's just for the leather to sit in nicely.